Hi guys, I'm Woodcraft Hamster and I'm back with part 3 of carving a bowl from end grain. Now hopefully you can see from my last video we've made a fair bit of improvement. The bowl is definitely now starting to look bowl shaped. There is a bit of a slant on it, as you can sort of see from there. If I put that flat in my hands, we're higher up this side than we are this side. And I've also done a little bit of work inside the bowl just to try and make it a little bit deeper, a little bit wider, and hopefully that's picking up okay on the camera there. Now there's still a fair amount of material in here, and I'm not sure how far I'm going to take this. This is certainly not going to be particularly thin, so it's not going to be like a standard china or porcelain bowl, but I'm just going to basically carry on sort of attacking it with the gouge, and then I'll move on to the spoon knife. And once I've used the gouge to get this roughly the depth and the thickness that I want it to be, which probably won't be too far off this, to be perfectly honest, I'll then move over to the spoon knife and start smoothing it out, ready for sanding. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to move the camera around to a slightly different angle, because I'm having to use these two little posts on the workbench here to sort of support the bowl. I could have drilled a couple more holes here, but to be honest I was quite happy with this setup. So I'll move the camera around so you can see what I'm doing, and we'll take it from there. Okay then guys, so hopefully that's picking up okay on the camera for you there. According to my little screen that seems to be in focus. And all I'm going to do, I'm taking my gouge here. Now this is more of a smoothing gouge, but it can be used for removing a decent amount of material. And all I'm going to do is just resting the bowl against this little post here, just to provide some support. I'm sort of pushing my hand again towards it so that the bowl basically locks steady. And I'm just taking some sort of fairly gradual sweeping curves. And what all this is doing, I mean, you can see hopefully sort of the size here of these shavings. They're very, very thin. If I put it next to my little finger there, you can kind of get an idea of how thin these are. And all I'm doing is just very gradually working my way round the bowl, taking off any high spots where I can find them, and also just taking sort of a layer off at a time as I work my way round. I'm trying to avoid the centre of the bowl, because that's probably deep enough for me now, so it's more moving out towards the walls of the bowl. So again, you can kind of see here that this area here is still quite thick in comparison. We're talking probably about that thick at the moment. So all I want to do is just bring these down a little bit smaller, and obviously the thinner I can make the area between the inside and the outside of the bowl, the more volume of material, so whether it's liquid or food or whatever it might be that I want to store in there. Now, one thing I probably should mention at this point, guys, is looking after your tools. Now, I don't know if that's picking up particularly well on the camera there, but it is getting a little bit more difficult to push this gouge through the material. Now, bearing in mind this is green wood, it should be a fairly easy process. So what I normally do after, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes worth of gouge work, depends on what sort of wood I'm using and how difficult the tool becomes to work, I will take this, which is just a piece of wood with a piece of leather that I've glued on top, and I've got some Starkey Blue or Smurf Poo, we'll call it what you like, which is a stropping agent on this piece of leather. And all I'm going to do is just take my my gouge and just with a medium amount of pressure, just give it a gentle strop. And when you're stropping any type of blade, make sure that you're pushing away from the cutting edge. Don't pull towards it, because all you're going to do is potentially cut yourself, and you'll almost certainly chew up your strop. And again, all I tend to do is just take the gouge and just run this across the internal edge, just to take off any burrs. And we'll see if that makes any noticeable difference. Yeah, so straight away, just that little strop. If I give you an example, if I take one of these shavings here, in comparison to one of the ones that I flicked out earlier. Hopefully I can get, if I can get that right on the camera there. So this is the one where I've freshly stropped the blade, and this is the one from what I was doing earlier. So it's a much larger shaving, which basically just means that the gouge is cutting more efficiently, more cleanly. And again there, I mean that's, you know, that's almost the size of the gouge there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do this for about another half hour or so. Just carry on refining this bowl down until it's sort of where I want it to be. Right then guys, so I've finished up using the gouge, and as you can see, hopefully on the camera there, we've enlarged the bowl quite significantly since the last time. I'm quite pleased with this. I don't really want it too much deeper or wider than this now, mainly because I'm quite happy with where it is. I could make it sort of thinner and narrower if I really wanted to, but I'm not too bothered, to be honest. Unfortunately, hopefully you can see there, the crack is still in the middle of the bowl. I haven't been able to get rid of that yet. I've not been able to go deep enough. It's still not coming through to the back, so hopefully that will be okay. And what I'm going to do now, to get rid of a lot of these tool marks inside the bowl, I'm going to move over to my spoon knife. And this is something, I'm not sure whether this is necessary or not. It's something I'm going to try, just because, as I said before, this is a new process to me. I've not tried making a bowl quite this way before. And what I'm going to do, I'll bring the camera a bit closer in so you can see what I'm doing. But what I basically want to do is just start smoothing out all these tool marks. I'll have to go back to the gouge at some point once that's done, because the spoon knife will leave its own set of tool marks, hopefully a little bit finer and lighter than the gouge, and then if I'm very careful, I'll then be able to use the gouge to sort of smooth those over as well. But let me bring the camera a bit closer in, guys, and I'll show you what it is I'm going to do. Rightio guys, so this is my spoon knife. This was, I think I bought this from Ben Orford's, who's quite well known in the UK. It's a lovely little spoon knife, really nice, comfortable grip on it. And this is a right-handed knife, so you've only got a single edge on there. It's not double-edged, which means you can kind of use your finger or your thumb to push onto this if you need to. But what I'm going to do is basically take the bowl here, and starting from the centre, and only in sort of, you know, maybe sort of something this kind of thick, just do sort of almost bands along here to get rid of these tool marks. Once I've done one section, I'll rotate the bowl slightly and then move on until I've completed the whole bowl. Now hopefully you can see there, this is leaving some sort of quite significant tool marks in here, and then some people may say that's actually worse than the ones that have been left by the gouge. To a degree they are, but in order to smooth these back out afterwards, the gouge should be able to get rid of these nice and easily without leaving too many heavy marks like it already has. As I say, this may not be necessary, and it may actually be a little bit counterintuitive, so I'm going to see how this goes, and once I've got the entire bowl done, we'll come back and see how we're getting on. And there we go guys, so I've basically just swapped one set of tool marks for another. Hopefully these ones will be a little bit easier to remove. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and get my gouge, and see if I can smooth this off even more, ready for the final drying and then sanding. Right, so here's where we see if the hard work with the spoon knife paid off, and what I'm going to do is just again use the gouge a lot more gently than I was before. So basically what you want to do is just very, very lightly just try and sort of shave off the areas where the spoon knife has left a high spot. Hopefully you can see on the camera there, you know, quite how little pressure I'm putting on. I mean, these are the kind of shavings that are coming off now, nothing like the big stuff we were taking off before. And again, if I just finish this little section off, I won't bore everybody with doing the entire bowl like this. And again, because I'm not putting too much pressure on, what's not happening is the gouge is not jumping through the wood. Even when it's really sharp, it does have a tendency to jump through the wood sometimes. And the problem with that is it then just leaves, as you get rid of one set of tool marks, you're creating another, which is obviously what you don't want. So if I just finish up this last little bit here, and by doing it so lightly as well, you can feel the high spots as you're going past them. So you know where you need to be taking off material and where you can get away with leaving it. But again, so hopefully you can see on the camera there, so this area here, just by my thumb, this is now smoothed out. I'm just trying to find a good angle on the camera for you there. So that's now fairly smooth, that's smooth to the touch. We'll still need sanding obviously, but it's fairly smooth in comparison to this bit here, which is really rough, which is where the spoon knife was. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to carry on very gently and gradually smoothing this out. And we'll come back when I've finished the rest of the bowl. Well, there we go guys, I'm about done as far as smoothing the inside of this bowl is concerned. Hopefully you can sort of see from the camera there, hopefully the light's picking this up well enough, that it's fairly smooth. It still does need sanding, and to be honest I can't do anything more with this now until this bowl's fully dried out, which is going to take some time. So before I put it away to hopefully dry out without cracking, I'm just going to use my farrier's knife again, and as I say, this is a really good versatile tool, and I'm just going to start tidying up the rim of the bowl. Hopefully you can see here my pencil line is still here, which is really useful, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this back to the pencil line, just so that I know that the bowl is completely even. I think that'll probably do us guys. So this now, as I say, needs to dry out. I may do a little bit more work on the outside of the bowl at some point, I haven't quite decided yet. If I do, again it will just be using my farrier's knife, and it will just be maybe reducing the width of the outside of this bowl slightly. Again, mostly it's just removing high spots, and if I want to, I can sort of start here, skim this down a little bit, and then just completely work around the whole bowl, so that it's nice and uniform. It is fairly uniform at the moment. Hopefully you can sort of pick that up on the camera there. There aren't too many high spots or anything like that. And again, you know, before I come to sand this, what I might do is just very gently with this knife move round and smooth it off as much as I can with the knife first. Then again, I haven't quite decided yet what I'm doing with the outside of the bowl. The inside will be sanded. The outside, I may even leave this tool finished on here. I quite like this kind of rustic look. Then again, I may also decide to sand it down. So again, I'll decide that closer to the time. Right then guys, well, apart from a little bit of tidying up, that's pretty much it for this bowl. I now need this to completely dry out before I can really do much more apart from this little bit of tidying up that I'm doing. So I would estimate this is probably going to be about 2 to 4 weeks to fully dry out properly. What I'll need to do is keep it in a plastic bag with some shavings, swap bags every couple of days so that you don't get too much moisture building up in the bags. And again, when I get the chance, probably each weekend, maybe in the evenings, is actually take this bowl out, just leave it like this on the side for a couple of hours, let the air get to it, let it dry out, and then put it back in a fresh plastic bag with some more shavings. And you know, doing that every couple of days will hopefully allow it to dry out slowly enough not to crack, but quickly enough that it actually dries out in a reasonable amount of time. But I hope today was useful, guys. Comments and questions below. Hit like and subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I hope you'll all join me next time. Thanks, guys.